And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the highly anticipated, as I'm sure you probably know, Holy Paladin video. As promised, I did want to provide this before the launch of Cataclysm, and we are, in fact, only 4.5 hours away. Absolutely psyched to be able to start this new expansion. And before we do dive in to that expansion, I want to quickly go over the Holy Paladin with talents, glyphs, and a general rotation with a quick dungeon. So thank you everyone for watching. Do appreciate it, and so much love and attention to the last video of the Retribution Paladin. So if you are here coming in from that video, thank you very much for your support. It blows my absolute mind that we've already hit over 200 views in the space of a day. So thank you everyone for watching, and for those of you who have commented, I do appreciate any and all feedback, as well as any interaction with you guys here in the community. It does make a significant difference for me, and it really does give me that extra motivation to continue to make these types of videos. So thank you again everyone for being here. I hope you guys are having a great start to your week. I know I'm feeling better than I was yesterday. So now that we are feeling good and we are ready to jump in, so we're going to go ahead and start with the Holy Paladin summary, as we have been doing with the other videos. We start with a brief summary and look over everything that Blizzard has decided to provide us more for information about the class. So go ahead and strap yourselves in. We're going to go ahead and start with Holy Shock. Holy Shock, as you all remember, is the main healer sort of quick ability to build up your holy power. As we mentioned in the last video for Retribution, Paladin's got a rework where the system of holy power, as you can see up here in the top left where my character portrait is, is the holy power meter, and this is going to be the way that you use one of your main spenders for healing, which is going to be Light of Dawn, which is specifically part of the healing tree, and we will get into that as we jump into the talents. But first things first, Holy Shock. Holy Shock is a really cool ability in my opinion. You can either shock a friendly unit or an enemy unit, and it will either do damage or heal based on who you use it on. So we're going to go ahead and just briefly show you what I mean. Bam! Holy Shock. And as we jump into the talents, we're going to also see that there are opportunities for this ability to not have a cooldown. So do bear that in mind as we walk through. But first things first, now that we've seen what Holy Shock does, let's talk about Walk in the Light. Walk in the Light is a passive ability that increases the effectiveness of your healing spells by 10% and the effectiveness of your Word of Glory by 30%, and it removes the cooldown entirely of Word of Glory. This means that Word of Glory is going to be used obviously as a heal, and there are talents when we go into this deep dive of the talent tree that showcases that variation in the way that Word of Glory interacts, dissimilarly to both Retribution and Protection. As I've mentioned before in the previous videos, for any healer spec, all healers are going to have this meditation passive where 50% of your mana regeneration from spirit is going to continue while in combat. This, as any type of healer, is, you know, and as I've mentioned previously, is incredibly important, because with the changes to mana, there really is a difference on how to use your mana effectively. And this is definitely one of those ways that you get to stretch out your mana and make sure that you don't necessarily go or out of mana throughout a fight. So very important to have this, and I'm glad that this is obviously uniform throughout all of the healer specs. Moving on to Mastery, your direct healing spells also place an Absorb Shield on your target for 12% of the amount healed, lasting 15 seconds. Each point of Mastery increases the Absorb by an additional 1.5%. And as I've mentioned previously, you're not going to have a lot of Mastery at the start of Cataclysm, but once you start getting that Cataclysm gear, you will start to see this Mastery shoot right up. And again, as I've mentioned before, I'm not a pro Paladin player. You know, I'm not very familiar with how the specific numbers are going to work out. But as I'm sure with anything, you know, the more you do, the more you learn. You know, I might be able to give you guys in a later video how much mastery, crit chance, haste, and all that you're probably going to want. And what I can tell you is that haste is going to be very important for paladins, as the casting speed for a lot of your spells go over 2 seconds, which I think is pretty uniform, I believe, across most healing specs. So having that additional haste to get that down as quickly as possible is incredibly important. One thing to note as well, previously in Wrath of the Lich King, we had a special talent, or I believe it was a passive, if I remember correctly, that we didn't actually want spirit as paladins. We actually just wanted to stack intellect. So as you're seeing most of my gear here, obviously with the changes, some of them are going to have spirit on it. But you notice that all of the gems that I have are just intellect gems. Again, that is primarily for the same purpose that, as I said before, Paladins last expansion did not want spirit, because when we crit with our heals, we got mana back. And I believe it was somewhere between 20 to 30% mana that was given back to us whenever we did crit with a heal. So do keep that in mind when you're looking at, briefly, if I hover over my, abilities and gear here, you're going to see that a lot of the things that are being gemmed are going to have intellect on them. So that's obviously the main reason why my intellect is close to 2,000. So moving right along, now that we've gone over our overview and summary here, we're going to jump right into the talents. And as I've done with the other videos for the healers as well as the retribution, we go from left to right, start from top to bottom when we talk about every single talent, why I went these talents and why I chose to go other talents. And again, do not take this for word of law. This is not like a you must do this build. This is just the build that I have found to be most useful for me and how I have decided to play the Holy Paladin coming into the Cataclysm pre-patch as well as into the launch here in the next 4.5 hours. And again, as I've said, please feel free to comment in the video below or ping me in Discord if you are watching from my guild about any questions, comments, or concerns that you have. I do like to interact with you guys, and I like to have an open dialogue and discussion about why I've chosen to go certain things and why other people chose to do other things. Again, as we live and learn, that's the way that we learn. So moving right along, going to start here in the first tier with Arbiter of the Light. As you can see, obviously I did not take this, but this is a talent that obviously has value, probably for more than Retribution, more than anything else. Increases the critical effect chance of your Judgment and Templar's Verdict by 6%. This gets boosted up to 12 when fully powered up. Obviously, we don't have access to Templar's Verdict, so this is kind of a throwaway talent that Retribution uses once they finish their tree. They grab this to increase that damage for both Judgment and Templar's Verdict, which is a huge part of their rotation. Again, if you want to see my deep dive of the Retribution Paladin video, go ahead and check out the channel for that video. It should be close to the top, being as it's my most watched video. And again, I thank everyone for the support that you guys have shown me on that video. It's absolutely incredible. I've never hit that at all with my channel, so thank you again. Moving right along, I picked up Protector of the Innocent, and I've gone obviously all three talents into that, which casted a targeted heal on any target except yourself. Also heals you for roughly 2,889 to 3,3298 healing. The reason I have gone this really just because of the fact that although we have Beacon of Light, and I could easily place that on anybody, and when we go into the glyphs, you'll see here that I've glyphed it to have no mana, so it's very versatile in that respect. However, the reason I went this specifically is more healing and more capabilities of healing gives you more utility, and again, it stretches out your mana just that much more, which again is very imperative for this with the new healer and mana changes going into Cataclysm. So something I do recommend in this first tier is going to be Protector of the Innocent. Even though you're not necessarily taking damage, whatever other random damage that does come in, you don't want to waste a heal on yourself. You could easily heal other people while healing yourself at the same time with this talent, so I do highly recommend this. Now, moving right along to Judgments of the Pure. Your judgment increases your casting and melee haste by 9% for 1 minute, and your mana regeneration from spirit while in combat by an additional 30%. And if I am not mistaken, whenever you do have this ability up, it does stack with meditation. So something I will say is having 80% of your mana regenerating from spirit to continue while in combat, just for me, is a complete no-brainer. And having that additional casting speed, you know, even if it is just 9%, it really does make a difference. And any type of haste that you can get for your casting spells does make a significant difference, and I do recommend that you take this ability. Moving on to the second tier, we have Clarity of Purpose, which reduces the casting time of your Holy Light, Divine Light, and Holy Radiance by a ½ second, which again, these are going to be your 3 main heals, and we will show what Radiance does because we do have that here. At level 83, when you get this ability, it imbues a friendly target with radiant energy, healing that target, and all allies in the area, well, within a 10-yard radius, I should say, for 3,705 to 4342, and another 693 every 0.8 seconds for 3 seconds, and grants a charge of holy power. Healing effectiveness diminishes for each player beyond 6 yards. Beyond 6 players. And I'd like to make a quick caveat in that I misspoke in the Holy video. I thought that was yardage. That is in fact players. So do not get that confused. The 6 at the end of the sentence does not refer to yardage. It refers to players. That is something that I realized actually this morning when I was rewatching the video, just to see how I could improve on future videos. I noticed that I made that mistake. So if you are watching this video, having watched the Holy video previously, do note that that is not in relation to yardage. That is in relation to players. Still a very nice heal. This is rather expensive, so I would imagine that you're not going to be casting this too often, but something that may come useful, you know, in a sticky situation. And again, this also does contribute to the lack of area of effect healing that paladins do have. We do not have area of effect healing pretty much at all outside of Light of Dawn, which we will get into later. But having this does increase that utility for area of effect healing that normally we do not have as paladins. So transitioning back to the talent tree, and moving on to our next talent, we have here Last Word, which gives your Word of Glory a 60% chance increased critical strike when used on targets with 35% or less health. I really like this talent in the sense that, again, similarly how the Holy Priest requires you to be sort of situationally aware of your surroundings and situation because of the chakra switching, this is one of those talents that, again, makes you think about, okay, my tank is at less than 35% health, and I have 3 full stacks of my holy power. Instead of Light of Dawning, which would heal everybody in a cone, I would actually need to repurpose those 3 holy power to heal my tank, so that you know, you get this increased critical strike chance, which, I mean, 60% is huge, guys. So in my opinion, this is a no-brainer talent. You absolutely want to have this, because the one thing I will say with Holy Paladins is you are a big pumping healing machine. And that is, I think, pretty much the case overall with Holy Paladins, at least coming into this expansion. You know, we have the capability to get anyone up from 10% health to pretty much full health with 1 or 2 heals. In fact, this healing right here, Divine Light, is going to be your main heavy heal. If a tank of yours in a group or in a raid is suffering a lot of damage, you may have to spam this a couple of times, but at least you are getting huge numbers in healing just from one spell. So do keep that in mind when you are building out your talents. Moving on to Blazing Light, which increases the damage of your Holy Shock and Exorcism by 10%. Fully powered up, this is 20%, and I actually misread this initially. After doing some testing, I realized that this doesn't actually relate to the healing capability of Holy Shock. This is strictly about the damage. So this is more of a retribution thing or a protection thing. I'm not really sure. what the rotation is like for protection paladins, but what I can tell you is that this is something that you would be looking forward to as a retribution paladin, because 20% increased damage to your exorcism is huge. When it comes to Holy Shock, you're not really going to be using that spell as a damage ability. I mean, you obviously can because it has that capability, but in my opinion, when you're in a fight and you're sort of prioritizing healing, you're obviously not going to be, using this ability to do damage. You're going to be using it to heal quickly. And again, this is your main builder of holy power for holy paladins, I would much rather use this to heal an individual as opposed to using it for damage. But again, this could be something that you use for PvP. I'm not a PvPer in that sense, but it could be seen for that usage. So do keep that in mind. Moving on to our third tier here, we have Denounce, which reduces the mana cost of Exorcism by 38%, and in addition, you have a 50% chance to cause the Denounce effect on the target of your Exorcism, which the Denounce effect prevents targets from causing critical effects for the next 6 seconds. So this is an interesting ability, or a talent, I should say, in that if you decide to take this, then you actually would want to incorporate Exorcism into your build, and then taking something like Blazing Light actually does make a lot of sense. Me personally, as something, like I said, as somebody that's probably going to be focusing a lot more on healing, I don't really see when I would have the time to do this in a player versus environment situation. Again, maybe in a PvP situation, you could probably take use of this. And I could see, now thinking about it, I definitely see how in a PvP sense, not allowing somebody to crit on you or your teammate could make the difference of the fight. So that is obviously something that is very viable in that sense. So definitely look something if you're a PvPer, or maybe if you can, in fact, weave this into your rotation in a raid, go for it. Definitely check it out. I, for one, I'm not going to use it. But in the comments, if you want to go ahead and add your feedback, please, by all means, I'd love to have a conversation about it. Moving on to Divine Favor, which is a 3-minute CD. It's one of your main cooldowns when you're in sticky situations and you're going to need to heal quickly and effectively. It increases your spellcasting haste by 20% and spill critical chance by a 20% as well for 30 seconds. This, for me, is definitely one of those abilities that I need to use more often. I just don't find myself using them in the situations that I should be, because maybe I'm kind of freaking out and I need to get everybody up first. This is definitely one of those abilities you should be using in any situation where healing is going to be very important or needs to be prioritized because you're in a raid group or a dungeon group and everybody's kind of dying. Popping Divine Favor and just spamming out those heals effectively and quickly really does make a difference. So definitely something I would look into. I would not skimp out on this talent. Moving right along to Infusion of Light. This increases the critical effect chance of your Holy Shock by 10%. And in addition, your Holy Shock critical effects reduce the cast time of your next Flash of Light, Holy Light, Divine Light, and Holy Radiance by 1.5 seconds, which you saw that probably earlier when I showed you guys the Holy Shock. Let me see if we can get it. There it is, Infusion of Light, which means that even these big spells take 0.8 seconds to cast. I don't know if you guys saw that with my quartz, but that's definitely something that I would look into. Again, it's not going to do it every single time, but if you are lucky, then this is definitely something that will help you out in those types of sticky situations. And again, why you want to be using your Divine Shock, Holy Shock, as often as possible. And being that Holy Shock is very cost effective, only 307 mana per tick, or per cast, I should say, it does mean that it is a very good way to get off your heals and generate holy power quickly. Moving on to Daybreak. Your Flash of Light, Holy Light, and Divine Light have a 20% chance to make your next Holy Shock not trigger a cooldown if used within 12 seconds. This is a really great way to help you continuously generate holy power. because when your Holy Shock doesn't trigger a cooldown, that just means that you can just keep Holy Shocking. And I've been in a situation before, again, this just may have been through pure luck, where I was able to get this talent relatively frequently, to the point where I think I did it maybe like once or twice back to back. So it's nice to be able to have this, and I do highly, highly, highly recommend having this talent in your builds. Moving on to the fourth tier here, we have Enlightened Judgments, which grants hit rating equal to 100% of any spirit gained from items or effects and increases the range of your judgment by 10 yards. In addition, your judgment instantly heals you for 3,214 to 3,605. So I actually didn't have this before because I misread it, but this is definitely one of those talents that I would recommend because, as you can see here, we're not going to have... Maybe this is from the talent. Yes, this is absolutely from the talent. So prior to me having this talent, I was missing constantly, and I was never able to get my Judgments of the Pure. Now that I have this, as you can see, I currently have 26% hit chance. And all of this is from Spirit that I would be gaining naturally through my effects and items. So I gotta be honest, y'all, after I picked up this trinket, I've really noticed a difference in my healing output. And being that, you know, you're gaining 482 spirit for 15 seconds every time you cast a spell. There's obviously a chance that it'll happen, but normally it does happen. Again, I could just be getting lucky, so you could just say it's dumb luck. I'll take that. But I will say that this ability really does make it so that you get your Judgments of the Pure off, as well as you're getting another heal for yourself. So you're stacking the heals from Protector of the Innocent as well as whenever you judgment. So it just means that every time you're judgmenting, which you're not necessarily going to be judgment all the time, but if there is some downtime, you can just judgment for the sake of doing it. And I do think it's worthwhile. So this is absolutely a talent that I would take without even a hesitation. It just means that, you know, your judgments are versatile in that you're able to do them more, so you can get your Judgment of the Pure more, as well as healing you for a very decent amount of health. Now, the main thing for Holy Paladins is Beacon of Light, excuse me, which will read out the ability. The target becomes a beacon of light to all targets within 60-yard radius of your Word of Glory, Holy Shock, Flash of Light, Divine Light, Light of the Dawn, and will also heal the beacon for 50% of the amount healed. Holy Light will heal 100% of that amount, and only one target can be a beacon of light at one time. This, for me, is one of the ways, as I mentioned before, Holy Paladins don't have a lot of AoE healing, but this at least allows you to have a multifaceted heal that acts as a multifaceted heal. And because, as I showed a second ago, I glyphed this to have no mana, this just means that in any type of situation that I'm in, I could throw Beacon of Light on the tank and just heal the rest of the group, and I don't even have to worry about him anymore. Because each heal that I bring out, it's going to go to him, whether in 50% capacity or 100% capacity, excuse me. This is one of the most pivotal and most important talents on this entire tree, I'd argue, outside of Enlightened Judgments and Divine Favor. But in my opinion, if you do not take this talent, it just doesn't make a viable build for a Holy Paladin. This is the bread and butter of how you're able to keep your group alive as well as your tank. So definitely Beacon of Light must be taken, in my opinion. Moving on to Speed of Light, which is built off of Infusion of Light, grants 3% flat spell haste, and in addition, when casting Divine Protection, increases your movement speed by 60% for 4 seconds. Which Divine Protection, I have it right here, it reduces the damage, all damage taken by 20% for 10 seconds. So, you know, if you notice that there's a lot of damage going out on the raid, you can minimize the damage that you're taking, and also get a movement speed boost along with that. And I think the reason I took this is mostly because of the spell haste. Again, I do truly value spell haste when I heal on my Paladin, because as I said, the Paladin heals are strong, but they're slow. And having any type of additional spell haste to get you through that line, in my opinion, is absolutely invaluable. And I would say that this is going to be a very important talent for raid situations, and I'd argue even in PvP situations. You know, being able to get away from someone and reducing damage on top of that while giving you a 3% flat spell haste is very important. So definitely look into this talent when you're building out your character. Moving right along to Sacred Cleansing, your cleanse spell now also dispels one magic effect. So let's talk about this for a second. For those of you who are not aware, the Paladin in Wrath of the Lich King and prior was able to cleanse magic, disease, and poisons, all with just the regular cleanse. That has since been changed in Cataclysm, and now this is the only version of the Paladin that is able to do that. So in my opinion, there is something to be said about being able to cleanse magic effects, especially in certain situations if you're trying to minimize damage that's coming up. A lot of the magic effects out there are going to be damage dealing magic effects, and being able to dispel that off of your tank, of your other damage or other healers in your raid, you are going to be one of the few classes that is able to do that outside of a priest. I don't believe that a shaman can do that. And I don't think druids can do that either. I don't really play those classes, so that's something I would still need to look up. I know that druids are able to do poisons and I think curses, and then same thing with shamans. They'll have the poison totem and the remove curse. So definitely pick this talent up. It really does make you a lot more versatile when it comes to raid-wide healing and dungeon-wide healing as well. And even in PvP. Moving on to our 5th tier. We're almost done here, so folks, so bear with me. We have Conviction. Now, I've only decided to go 2 points into this. And I think when I start leveling and getting, to 85 and we get the rest of our talents, I will probably fully power this up. As well as Eternal Glory, which we will get into in a quick second. But let's read this. It gives you a 2% bonus to damage and healing for 15 seconds after causing a critical effect from a weapon swing, non-periodic spell, or ability. This effect stacks up to 3 times, so a potential of up to 6% currently, and then in 9% when fully powered up. And if I'm not mistaken, let's look at this. Let's see. There it is. So yeah, this is going to, it's obviously a low chance, but you do get that chance when, you get it up, and that's, 6%. So my math is correct there. And as you can see, it does help out in certain respects because that's, extra 4% healing that you're getting outright. And when fully stacked up, if you get that lucky, you do get the 6 or the 9 when fully powered up. So definitely something I would recommend because it does apply with all of your spells, being that none of your heals are periodic heals. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. I recently did just test this out and I decided to go with it. And again, any type of percentage bonus to healing, is incredibly important, at least in my opinion. I value whatever extra percentages the game gives me because those are extra percentages that I did not have before. So look into that when you are looking to build out your characters. Now, Aura Mastery is definitely interesting. This could definitely be argued as a PvP talent, and I think that's primarily what it is, what it's used for. However, I know that there are some fights that will probably, either cause you to be interrupted or silenced. The problem is that you need to be proactive. This is not one of those abilities that you can just cast when you are silenced or when you are interrupted, you must do it preemptively. So if you are looking at an enemy's cast bar and you see him, you know, casting like some sort of silence or whatever, that's probably when you would want to Aura Mastery. Again, I'm not necessarily sure how often you're going to encounter that in player versus environment situations, but I like to have that button just in case. My thing is that I'm bad about being proactive. I'm more reactive in that sense. So that's something that I need to improve on as a player. But I do recommend this talent for those types of situational appearances for a silence or an interrupt. Again, you're not going to be dealing with that all the time, and that's definitely more of a PvP talent. But still, I do value having that immunity to a silence and an interrupt in the case that there is that going into a fight. Moving on to Paragon of Virtue. This reduces the cooldown of Divine Protection by 30 seconds, Hand of Sacrifice by 30 seconds, and Avenging Wrath by 60 seconds. Now, Avenging Wrath is right here. I do recommend having this because, again, even though it increases damage, it also increases healing by 20% for 20 seconds. So having this on a 2-minute cooldown as opposed to a 3-minute cooldown just means that every 2 minutes, especially if there's a long fight, you know, you'll be able to do that and have those windows of increased healing output that could make or break a fight. So definitely something that I would recommend. Moving on, our second to last tier here, we have Tower of Radiance. Healing the target of your Beacon of Light with Flash of Light or Divine Light has a 100% chance to generate a charge of Holy Power. In addition, casting Holy Radiance will always generate 1 charge of Holy Power. So again, this is another way that you're going to be able to build up your Holy Power outside of Holy Shock. So this is definitely something I recommend. And I think you need to heal the target directly is what it sounds like to me. So even though it's not necessarily cost effective to heal that type of target, if there is nobody else taking damage, then again, you can generate that Holy Power more quickly by doing that. And Holy Radiance, as we went over before, guaranteeing that it always generates Holy Power is, again, just another way of using a more expensive healing spell and getting the benefit out of it. So definitely something I'd recommend. Moving on to Blessed Life, you have a 50 and this is 100% when fully powered up. Chance to gain a charge of Holy Power whenever you take direct damage. This effect cannot occur more than once every 8 seconds. I like this ability, or I like this talent, but however, I do see this more as a PvP talent. But again, you could argue, especially if it's 100% chance, any type of direct damage, you know, you get Holy Power. So it just means that your healing capabilities are increased further. And I'm willing to have a conversation about this with anyone. You could probably switch out, you know, Aura Mastery here and put that point here, at least you have that 50% chance anytime you take damage like that to get that extra Holy Power. So again, it's definitely something that is possible. And you know, especially if that type of situation that you're in and you notice that for whatever reason you're taking a lot of damage in player versus environment type situations, using this or speccing into this talent situationally can be very beneficial in that respect. And our last talent in the tree, finally, for Holy Paladin is Light of Dawn. This is our AoE early on area of effect healing, which will consume all Holy Power to send a wave of healing energy before you, healing up to 4 of the most injured party members or raid members within a 30-yard frontal cone for 1,277 to 1,363 per charge of Holy Power. So if we do some quick math at the low end, 1,277 times 3, that's roughly 3.8k healing that you're able to do on the low end. And obviously this can crit. I have seen it crit. So it is possible for that. And it does look very cool. Let me see if I could just go ahead and bam, bam. Let me get one more. There we go. Get one more. And boom. Okay, so let's see how this looks. and that heals for 4430 on that occasion. So as you can see, the healing capabilities do have a lot of versatility in that respect. And if it does crit, then you know, it does make it worth your while. Moving on to our supplementary talents, move into the other trees. The only ones I would recommend that you guys look into would be Divinity. Increases all healing done by you and all healing effects on you by 6%. So this increases your healing output and your compatriots' healing output by an additional 6% whenever a healing is done on you and by you. So this is definitely something I recommend. There is something to be said about, again, increasing the effectiveness of healing overall, and having that capability does make it so that, again, you're stretching out your mana much more efficiently, as well as the mana of your compatriots as well. One thing I did look into, your Word of Glory has a 15% chance not to consume Holy Power. Fully powered up, that's a 30% chance. Now for us, I realized that that might actually be kind of bad. Yeah. In fact, you actually don't want to go that, because our Walk in the Light already removes the cooldown entirely. So this is actually a poorly placed talent. Or actually, no, it's not. I read that wrong. Apologies. Your Word of Glory has a 50% chance or 30% chance to consume no holy power. So you could Word of Glory at 3 and 30% of it, or a 30% chance, in this case 15, since I've only powered it up once, not to spend that. So again, you can increase the effectiveness of your Word of Glory even further by speccing into this talent. So apologies, guys, I did read that wrong a second ago. So I do recommend this talent, in fact, because of the fact that, so we've reduced the cooldown fully, passively, through our Walk in the Light, and then we can make it consume no holy power. So we can just keep doing it if you get lucky like that. So definitely something I do recommend, powering this up fully to 30%. And finally, the last thing that I would recommend is improved judgment. Probably you could argue you could go into Crusade as well, because it does have that damage and healing of Holy Shock. And obviously in a PvP sense, this is huge, because fully powered up, that's a 300% extra heal of Holy Light standard. So if you are a PvPer, that's definitely something I recommend. But the reason I think I would recommend improved judgment overall is if you're in a fight that requires a lot of movement, having that increased range, which we've already powered up here to 10 yards standard, okay, having an additional 10, so make that 20, and then 30 when it's fully powered up. That means that you can pretty much stand towards the back of the room if need be, and still be able to get your your judgments off, and get your judgments of the pure passives running earlier. So this is pretty much what I would recommend for the talents. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to post it in the comment section of this video. Love to have a dialogue with you guys about how you would rather build your paladins, or how you guys have built your paladins, and how we can learn from each other and build off one another. So transitioning over to the glyphs before we do a quick Forge of Souls. I have gone with the Glyph of Holy Shock, which increases the critical effect chance of Holy Shock by an additional 5%. You know, being able to crit more with Holy Shock, just for me, seems like very good. You could also have the increased Word of Glory healing, which does stack well with our passive. So if that is something that you are looking into, I would recommend it. It's not a bad glyph. This is pretty much what I've just decided to go with. And if I find that there's more value in the Word of Glory, I will most likely switch it out. I have also gone with Glyph of Divine Favor, which increases the duration of your Divine Favor by 10 seconds. So that just means that originally it was 20 seconds, and now with our glyph, it increases it to 30. That's now 30 seconds of 20% faster casting and 20% higher crit chance for your spells. Very useful in my opinion. And finally, I have gone with Glyph of the Seal of Insight. While Seal of Insight is active, the effect of your healing spells is increased by 5%. This is one of the glyphs that was ported over from Wrath of the Lich King. There was one similar to this. I believe it was Seal of Light originally. So whenever you are in Seal of Light, or in this case Seal of Insight, your effectiveness with healing spells is increased by an additional 5%. Again, very much seems like a no-brainer. Having that increased healing output while you're in a seal that you're going to be in anyways is just pretty much a no-brainer. So definitely look into those glyphs, as well as as I mentioned, the Word of Glory glyph, if you are looking for that. Moving on to our major glyphs. As I've said, I've already shown you guys the Beacon of Light costs no mana. Again, this is very much a no-brainer, being that your beacon is going to be the one and main way that you're going to get your increased healing capability and utility out for your Paladin. So I would highly recommend picking this up. I will say that on the auction house, this does tend to be a little expensive. So if you have any inscription friends, or if you yourself are an inscriptionist, absolutely get that glyph in there as quickly as humanly possible. It is very important to have. Moving on to Glyph of Cleansing, reduces the mana cost of your cleanse by 20%. And as we've already gone over, because we've talented into the glyph that gives us the magic effect as well, fully powering up this cleanse and reducing its cost by an additional 20% really does make a difference. It means, again, as I've said before many times, being able to stretch out your mana and keep that longevity going really does make a difference in these longer fights, and I'm sure that you will be putting it to very good use throughout the next raid tiers to come. And finally, for our major glyphs, we have Glyph of Light of Dawn, which, again, this is, I think, a bit situational, but I've decided to go with this a little bit more because of the healing effectiveness. This is probably a little bit more of a dungeon talent or even a PvP talent. Light of Dawn affects 2 fewer targets, but heals each target 25% more. So I think the reason I went this was solely for the purpose of having more diversity for the heal. Yeah, you're cutting out 2 people from the original 4, so you're only healing 2 people with this. However, having it heal for 25% more on each target, I think, is very useful. So if you position yourself in a way that is effective, then you know, you're really getting out more of your heal. And if you're looking at all of these different ones, you know, the one that I would probably argue you could probably go for would maybe be Glyph of the Long Word. So it's kind of like it's kind of like a regrowth or a rejuvenation, I should say, if you're familiar with Druid healing. It is so your Word of Glory heals for 50% less up front, but provides an additional 50% healing over 6 seconds. Again, it's situational, but I could see why people would want to run this. So that's obviously something you can look into. You could also reduce the cooldown of your Lay of Hands by 3 minutes, which is pretty much a save your ass button. Or you can use, when Lay on Hands, you also gain 10% of your maximum mana. So in certain types of situations, you know, if you're kind of running low on mana and you see somebody's dying, you Lay on Hands and, you know, you get 10% of your maximum mana back. So, and the more mana you have, the more mana you're going to get back. So could be useful. Again, situational. I have decided to go with Light of the Dawn instead of anything else. I think you could probably go... you could also probably do Divine Plea, but do bear in mind that whenever you pop Divine Plea, it does reduce the amount of healing that you do by 50 seconds, or excuse me, by 50%, but for 9 seconds. So less healing output, more mana back, because you're getting an additional 6%, so that would stack up to 18% total mana back over 9 seconds. So if you play your cards right, you know, in a period of low damage, and you're running out of mana, you can, you know, let your group know or let your raid know, I'm plopping Divine Plea, help you get some of your mana back. You can, you know, and then you can pot, you know, you can mana pot on top of that. So you could probably use that as a more effective way to get more of your mana back quickly. But again, you know, love to have a conversation about this with you guys, for those of you who are playing a Paladin and watching this video. So as I said, either ping me in Discord if you're in my guild, or go ahead and toss a comment at the bottom of this video. I'd love to have a dialogue about it. And for the minor glyphs, there isn't really too much going on here for you guys, for the heals, outside of Glyph of Insight, which just reduces the mana cost of Seal of Insight by 50%. Same thing for both Might and Kings. It really just kind of does make sense in my opinion. You're not really going to be seal switching at all. So having reduced mana cost for these things just means it's less setup that you have to worry about, and probably less chance that you're going to need to drink after you do that. So now that we've gone over all of that good stuff, and I do apologize, we're already at 45 minutes on the video. Let's go ahead and grab the daily so we can just knock that out while we're here. In fact, let me actually check something. Okay, I'm still good within my cap of 4K for the Valor points, or sorry, Justice points, not Valor points. Yes, Justice points. We'll get those much later. So I'll go ahead and queue up. Oops, no. Sorry. Let me go ahead and bam. That way, there's no chance that I will have to worry about being queued as a damage. All right, grab these two. This should not take too long, hopefully. But again, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Any questions, comments, or concerns, as I've said multiple times throughout the video, please feel free to make them. I am always willing to have conversations about how best to build a character out, how best to approach certain builds and stances. So looking forward to hearing from you guys in relation to that information. I'm actually going to go ahead and quickly sell before we get started. That way I don't have to worry about it. All right. Hopefully this does not take too long. Was it there? There we go. Speak of the devil. All right. Let's get her done. Let's get her done. Let's get her done. And by the way, guys, I'll probably be doing a video on the Hunter specs, as I'm decently familiar with that spec as well and class overall, especially now with the changes to focus. It'll definitely be interesting to see how that plays out. So I will most likely be coming back with a survival hunter / marksmanship hunter video. I probably won't be doing Beastmaster, as it's not something I will be playing. However, we'll go ahead and do that. Oh, very well. Very good. All right. Boom. All right, there we go. So Judgments of the Pure is up, and again, thanks to our increased hit rating because of that spell, it's really making a difference. So actually, I could just go in here and just heal and do Judgment of the Light. Or Judgment, I should say. It's not Judgment of the Light anymore. And again, as I've mentioned before, I'm using Voodoo. This is the healing interface that you guys will see me use most likely. This is probably going to be where we're going to need to focus here. So let's go ahead and do that. Yep, as you can see, we're kind of building up here. We do have some damage going out in the raid, so we're going to kind of pray that this kind of works out pretty well. Yep, no problem whatsoever. And again, I think you guys can sort of see what I've been talking about. Even though it's slow casts, we're able to kind of output that healing very well with the fact that our spells just heal for so much for each heal. So it's obviously something that you'll want to keep in mind when we're sort of approaching these different things. And in terms of other videos I'll probably be coming out with, I'll probably do one on the warrior as well, as I do have a warrior that I'm decently familiar with. Go ahead and dispel that. See, and there you go. That's a great example of what I was talking about earlier, by the way. Having the capability to to cleanse those healing, those magic effects really does make a difference. It just means that that's less damage that's going out on the raid, and with our reduced cost for the heal itself, it really does make a difference. Ooh, I'm gonna drag this away. I guess that's fine. Go ahead and heal everybody here. And again, guys, that cone of Light of Dawn is positional based. So make sure that when you are casting that ability, that you are facing the way that you want to be using that. Because if you do not, you will not be getting the benefit of it. So do keep that in mind. And especially since I glyphed to make it weaker, or excuse me, stronger for the 2 people that are going to get it, it's absolutely imperative that you guys take it that way. So in these types of situations, it's a little bit rough, but it's all right. We're kind of powering through it. And you do see the crit there on the Light of Dawn. It is possible for that to crit, so do keep that in mind. All right, we got the free Daybreak there. That's good. So far so good. No real problems, no real issues. You know, we have, obviously, with Forge of Souls, there's going to be some sort of leeway there. Ooh, that was kind of bad on my part. Right, gonna keep up as best we can. We do get an additional one on there. Go ahead and beat this guy down. All right. Get the heal on there. There's a 9k crit on that. Light of Dawn, it's huge. And again, I do think that has to play a part with the effectiveness of the heal. So because it's 25% more effective, you know, that 9k crit is really only possible through the fact that, you know, we decided to go with that. There we go, 14k, that's huge. Again, guys, slow but strong heals. That is the way of the Paladin. It's how we do things. And I do like it. You know, it does, again, it really does make you think on how to approach these, you know, these healing strats. You know, you want to be cognizant of where you are, who you're healing, how you're healing, because it all does make a significant difference. And I guess I will go ahead and beat on this guy a little bit. I'm going ahead and just keep causing a nuisance for this guy. And again, you see that my mana here is not really suffering by any stretch of the imagination, so that is what we like to see. Very good, very good. Whoops. Okay. Still remembering what the voodoo shortcuts are for my character here, because I've been playing a little bit more of the priest, so a lot more familiar with those keybinds than the other ones. This last fight is usually going to be interesting because, again, area of effect healing is not something that we have out the rip outside of Light of Dawn. So I may end up having to cast our Divine Favor here, or even use one of my trinkets, in fact, just to help with the, you know, healing output, pretty much. So we're going to go ahead and go in. There we go. A nice 9k crit there. Not really going to get the... I guess we can do this. Oop. Let a couple guys walk in front of me. Very good. Get this guy up. Another good heal out there from the Holy Shock. Whenever you see the Holy Shock crit, I will say it does feel very good. It feels very nice. It does. It really does. And then a big one, 20k right there with the big heal, Divine Light. Again, it does seem very expensive, and that in certain situations it's probably wasteful, but it's good to know that you have healing that really does make a difference. All right, so my Word of Glory is on button 4. Okay, I don't have anything on control. Oh, you know what? Maybe I can get rid of this and just put that on control left. make it so that I'm not overloading myself here. There we go. That's good. Let's do that. Go in. Oh, that's on me. I'm gonna survive this. It's gonna be a lot of damage. And it's... Oh, I'm dead. Oh, man. That lasts for too long. See, that's where I probably should have popped Divine Favor. And gotten myself off the other heals first, which... Now that I'm here... shift. Yeah. Probably want to switch that. I'm gonna just pass everything here, in fact. Don't really deserve the others. So apologies on the lack of performance here, folks. I do apologize on that. Still getting used to the buttons on this guy. But that is the essential idea here. You know, you're going to want to... you know, you're going to want to make sure that your buttons are all good and, you know, it makes sense, because in a situation like me, where I'm dying because, you know, my teammates don't necessarily know how to do the mechanics, because in that specific moment, everyone's supposed to stop DPS while the Mirrored Souls is off, and only the tank is supposed to be doing damage just to maintain aggro. But again, everybody's obsessed with just burning the crap out of the boss, like as you can see here. The mage and the shadow priest were pumping about roughly 9k damage each one. So again, unfortunate, but it does happen. But that is the general gist of the Holy Paladin. Thank you everyone so much for watching. We'll be back relatively soon here with our look at the Hunter. For sure, that's definitely going to be an alt that I am doing, and potentially as well the warrior classes. So with that being said, thank you everyone again. I hope you guys have a pleasant Monday and a good rest of your week. We will catch you for the next video. Check you laters.